Hey all you hepcats, I have a new review of a Mystery Science Theater box set. It is Boxset 25, here we are. And this is the newest one from Shout Factory that came out in December, I believe it was. And this episode features, oh, I like to, Revenge of the Creature. Probably, maybe one of the best known movies that they had tackled. Robot Holocaust. Operation Kid Brother, or Operation 0007. And Kitten with a Whip, the other kind of big studio film that they did in this box set. It's a really interesting set. And as usual, the mini posters here, I still believe, are made by Steve Vance. Yes, Steve Vance. The Robot Holocaust poster. The Operation Kid Brother. Kitten with a Whip. And Revenge of the Creature, which is cool. It's like, hey, this is a universal creature right here on the poster art. Now, with this box set, we have, I believe it is, we have 2 Mike episodes and 2 Joel episodes. Pretty much the way I like it, actually. And also a good mix, because this is a Season 1, a Season 5, 6, and 8. Now, there's some really interesting episodes on here. Like, let's start off with Robot Holocaust, since it's the first episode. This is a Joel episode, and coincidentally, this is one of Lindsay's favorite episodes for some reason. I don't know. Is it because of... what?
It's just so horribly goofy.
Yeah. I think so. It's a really cheap movie. Anybody who was a teenager during the 80s and you walk into mom and pop video stores and they'd have that collection of horror and fantasy films, and oh boy, that cover art really looked awesome. I better check it out. Like, oh, this is really cheap and shitty. Oh, I'm so depressed. Oh, this is one of those movies. It takes place in the future where robots, well, 3 of them anyway, have taken over the world and reduced man to sort of barbarians and mutants and Amazons, and all takes place kind of in the backdrop of a city that looks fine to me. I don't know why they're not using that city that's in the background. I know it's supposed to, I know they're trying to use it as, like, you know, the laid waste of, you know, the great cities of the past, but the city looks fine. You should really go there. Let's see, how can I explain this plot? It's all about this this girl, and her father has been captured by the Dark One and his minions. And there's Valeria, his human hot chick sidekick who does all his bidding, but, you know, oh yeah, she's a robot too. She just has flesh for some reason. And, you know, the other robots are really cheap in this movie. And seriously, there's like, the Dark One has 4 robots. Yeah, 4. There's Valeria and Tor, and then those 2 trooper guys, who are, by the way, I think are occasionally shot to look like more guys, but it's obviously just 2 guys, because there's always just 2 guys in the shot. I don't know why defeating this guy is so hard, but anyway, the dad has learned something in order to defeat him, so he's kidnapped him and he's trying to torture him and find out what he knows. I mean, you just can't kill him, I guess. And meanwhile, our heroes, the daughter hooks up with this barbarian hero guy and a robot who is incredibly annoying. He's really irritating. He's like a bad Don Knotts plus Jar Jar Binks. So, and unfortunately he's never killed. It's like, you know, the most annoying characters are never killed. I don't know why that is. Why can't you ever give us that, filmmakers? Why couldn't we have, like, an exploding head Jar Jar scene? No, we didn't get that. Yeah, let's kill, like, Darth Maul within 20 seconds of the first trilogy. But no, we have to have Jar Jar live. That's the same thing here. it's an extremely cheap movie. The effects, you can actually just see creatures move like they're actually guys' hands. I mean, it's incredibly, really bargain basement film. It does look like something, a bunch of guys made for a couple of $100. I wouldn't be shocked, by the way. The riffing, this is a first season episode, and this has Josh Weinstein on it. Also, I think this does have one of the shorts, doesn't it? Of Commander Cody, yeah. Which are always a lot of fun, by the way. And the riffing is not as maybe strong as some of the other seasons, but for season 1 episode, this is actually a pretty strong riffed episode. Mainly because the movie is so goofy, it gives them a lot to work with. And I think this was one of those films that they were kind of learning, like oh, okay, really can pick up our game with this. So this definitely is one of the better season 1 episodes. Okay, now let's move on to season 5's Operation Kid Brother, and when the episode was aired, it was 0007. I imagine they had to change it on the front here, maybe because of copyright reasons. By the way, if you watch this episode, it does say 0007. The way this film is just made is just confusing. Actually, that's one of the things I always find confusing about this episode, is this movie is some Italian-made production, and it's about a super spy's brother who gets caught up in this espionage crime of trying to turn off the world's power, so he can take over the #1 terrorist organization. And I don't know why the #1 spy is not around, but his brother is, and he's called Dr. Connery, played by Neil Connery, Sean Connery's brother. And he has a goatee, and he's supposed to be a plastic surgeon who is the coolest plastic surgeon in the world. He's a master plastic surgeon. He is a kung fu guy. He has hypnotist powers. I think there's some other things he can do. I mean, I've never met a plastic surgeon this good, but he apparently is. And what's weird is the regular cast of Bond during at least the 60s is in this film. The original M is in this movie. The original Moneypenny is in this movie. The villain from Thunderball is in the movie. And there are some Bond girls here and there throughout the film. It's like, what's going on? And the weird thing is, it's not funny enough to be a spoof. So I sometimes wonder, are they parodying or are they making a legitimate ripoff? I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of jokes here and there, but not enough to make you think it's a comedy. I don't know. I mean, not any more than you'd see in Avengers. I mean, Avengers has more jokes in it than this movie does. But this is probably my favorite episode on this pack. This is Season 5. Season 5, especially the first half with Joel. Season 5 is fantastic. Season 4 and Season 5 are my basic favorite seasons. Quickly followed by Season 6 and Season 8. The ripping is perfect. Every joke hits, and Joel is right on. He talks about in his introduction to this episode, by the way, that he was doing voices that he hadn't been able to do up until that point, and not since. And Crow is hilarious, and Tom is hilarious, and all the wonderful jokes. Because what's great about doing this is it gave them permission to make fun of Bond films. And, oh my god, there's tons of material that they have in this one. There's an hilarious scene, one of the host segments. They compare Neil Connery's career with Sean Connery's career. And, they have quite different career, according to this chart they made up. It's extremely funny. And then, of course, they managed to dig at Sean for Highlander 2. Mwah, brilliant.
And Zardoz.
And Zardoz, too. That's right. Oh, and they make a couple. I think they also make a couple of Connery references in this movie as well. This is my pick of this box set, by the way. Now, Kitten with a Whip. This is a Season 6 episode, and this stars Anne Margaret and John Forsythe. as well as the guy from $6 Million Man who wasn't Steve Rogers. He was the guy who was the boss. I can't remember his name. But this is an irritating movie, frankly. It's sort of a kidnap movie. And I've never been a big fan of kidnap films. But it's... John Forsythe plays this guy who's running for senator of his generic state, where I assume it's California. I think it is California, actually. They don't mince words, because it's next to Mexico or something like that. So he's running for Senate in California. His wife, he and his wife are having marital problems, and she has taken the daughter to mom while they all chill out and figure out what they want to do. But obviously, they're probably going to, get back together. And Anne Margaret is a juvenile delinquent who's escaped from juvenile hall, and she has, moved into his house. She, breaks in and, goes to bed, and she convinces him that, she's had a hard luck time, and she's running from abused father, and he pays sympathy to her and gives her money. He buys her a dress and bus tickets, and he thinks, oh, yeah, I've done a good deed, and then she comes right back. The metaphor of the cat thing is really irritating, by the way. There's a riff that Crow has where he says, how long can you stretch a metaphor before it snaps? And it's true. I actually wonder how much these filmmakers hated women. I don't know. I just have this sinking feeling. And when her friends come, her fake Beat Generation friends, which I think begs a new question. Did these filmmakers hate women more than the Beat Generation? I can't tell, because they seem to hate them equally. And by the way, that's kind of typical of Hollywood films in the 50s and early 60s, before that counterculture took over Hollywood. They hated the Beat Generation. They hated counterculture during the 50s, and you could see in all their films and TV shows. I mean, from films like this, and Funny Face, and episodes of the Munsters and Beverly Hillbillies. You could tell they all thought they were stupid criminal thugs and phonies. So this is another one of those kind of films. And John Forsythe's character, you can't build any sympathy for because he's so stupid. He makes every possible wrong decision throughout this film. And there are times where you think, well, maybe he seems tempted to take advantage of his situation, especially in the beginning. There's supposed to be sort of a relationship, a temptation relationship. But, oh man, I don't know. What a terrible film. And it's good to see it beaten the hell up by Mike and the Bots. Mike and the Bots have a lot of fun with this. They really wail on how bad the performances are. I mean, I like John Forsythe and Anne Margaret, but they're not good in this movie. And they have opposite problems. John Forsythe doesn't act. He's a big block of wood in this movie. And Anne Margaret acts all over the fucking place. I mean, it makes Tommy Lee Jones and Batman Forever seem subtle, her performance. So, yeah, that's what you have to work with in this movie. There's a funny skit where the Best Brains writers decide to give us a kitten with a whip. So Kevin Murphy visits the ship for no reason as a cat who's trying to get out some kind of statement, but he gets cat distracted, which is pretty funny, actually. I understand that he hated having to do that, but it actually makes that skit funnier, frankly. This is a pretty good episode, too. Mike is the bonus feature. Mike Nelson has a introduction, which I think is a really fun introduction. He talks about the film. And, I think there's also... I forgot to mention on Operation Kid Brother, Joel has an introduction to this one, and I found his thoughts on this episode really interesting, because he was just about ready to leave. He was getting ready to leave when they made this episode, so you hear a lot about that in his introduction. And Revenge of the Creature was the season premiere of season 8. Once they went to Sci-Fi Network, because the relationship with Comedy Central had kind of disbanded, and Sci-Fi jumped all over. But what was interesting was the relationship with Sci-Fi was somewhat strained, because there are fans who weren't sure if they wanted this show on their network that makes fun of science fiction. There was that attitude that the creators got for this show, and that's an attitude that was completely alien to them at this point, because they didn't have that at Comedy Central. Comedy Central was like, let's make fun of everything. Oh, Sci-Fi Channel was like, whoa, 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 hey, you gonna make fun of the deadly mantis? You snobs? That's kind of shit they had to deal with. The episode has another introduction by Mike Nelson. Also, there's a Life After MST3K with Bill Corbett, and Jack Arnold at Universal, which is actually a really entertaining documentary. It talks about the director of this film, Jack Arnold, and he was kind of a big deal at Universal throughout the 50s, and he has a really interesting career. I do recommend, if you're a fan of like genre history in film, definitely recommend checking out if you're not too familiar with Jack Arnold. Oh, that's by our friends at Ballyhoo, by the way. The episode, it starts right off with a bang, because the last episode of the Comedy Central series was basically a 2001 reference, where they all like reached the end of the universe and they became pure energy and left the ship, and then they got sucked back, and it's 500 years in the future, and now they're surrounding Earth. That's a Planet of the Apes kind of Earth. So yeah, but what's hilarious is there's a reference to Time of the Apes episode, which I remember when I watched this for the first time, that just made me feel right at home. It's like, oh, okay, good, we're back to normal. Oh, and Bobo was never my favorite character of all the mad scientists, but he's most entertaining in this episode, I think. And also he's the most intelligent he's ever been at this episode. I liked him in his early episodes because he did seem like he had a brain, and then he just got stupider and stupider the more the more the series went on. His introduction to the film is hilarious, by the way. I do like this one a lot. It's also Bill Corbett's first episode as Crow, and you do kind of hear him. He's adjusting and trying to figure out how to play Crow. He's partly imitating Trace and partly doing his own voice, and it's, I think, 3 or 4 episodes until he kind of just really totally falls into the groove of doing it. But you know what? He's always fun, and this episode is really great. I'm gonna, of course, give this box set full 5 RAM chips. There hasn't been a bad set from Shout Factory since they started doing these. I think my personal favorite is Operation Kid Brother. I think that's a fantastic episode, easily the best. Lindsay's recommendation would be
Robot Holocaust.
Robot Holocaust. So definitely, if you buy this box set, hit these 2 first. And these are very entertaining as well. Revenge of the Creature is actually one of the best movies they actually did, but still not a great movie. You'll see if you check it out. I think that's it. I'm going to be doing more MST3K videos from now on. I apologize. When I'm not reviewing box sets and discs, I'll also just be talking about things that involve the show, certain themes and opinions and such. Matter of fact, in 2 weeks from the day I post this one, I'll be talking about my top 10 favorite movies that they made fun of. And hopefully you will find that entertaining. Anyway, push the button, Lindsay.